Hello, I have arrived in Hameln. Hameln, you will ask? The guy has just been in Bad Karshafen. Where is the footage? Well, when I left Bad Karshafen, to give you the promised shot of the mouth of the Diemel into the Weser, it just started to rain on an already super cold day. So I put on my rain attire, my winter gloves, and I rode the 96 kilometers to Hameln without interruption. I could not film anything. I just stopped for one little shot of the Baron Münchhausen, the nobleman Münchhausen in Bodenwerder. I will tell you that story in a second. And then arrived here in Hameln. Also a really nice German city with also a cool story, the story of the Rattenfänger, the rat catcher, which is translated as a Pied Piper in English. So if you have ever heard the story of the Pied Piper of Hameln, I will tell you that also. And of course, I will give you some shots of that as well. What you just saw was outside of Bodenwerder, a little city on the Weser. It was the welcoming sign to the Münchhausen city. Everything is Bodenwerder is about the Baron Münchhausen. The Baron Münchhausen was a retired Russian cavalry officer who came back to his family estate in Bodenwerder. There he liked to wine and dine and invite guests. And during his innumerous events of having guests, he also liked to tell incredible and outlandish stories to entertain his guests. Once, the German writer Raspe was one of his guests, who later became impoverished. And in order to make some money, he wrote down Münchhausen's stories, embellished them, and sometimes added his own things to make them even more unbelievable. The book became an enormous success, was internationally translated, and everyone knew instantaneously it was the Baron Münchhausen of Bodenwerder. Most famous stories are the one about the cannonball and the one about the half-horse. On that statue outside Bodenwerder, which I just showed you, you see him sitting on a cannonball, which came when they were in front of an enemy fortress, and none of the regular soldiers wanted to come forward to spy on the fortress. So Münchhausen bravely sat on a cannonball and asked the guys to fire it up. In midair, he took out his binoculars and found out about the strongholds and weaknesses of the enemy. To come back, he changed cannonballs in midair, and he set on an incoming cannonball to land safely among his troops. And once he said that he was riding through a falling town gate with his horse, who he later then took to the river to drink. Only there he realized that he was sitting only on half horse, the other half being cut off at the city gate. And the horse was happily drinking, while the water came out of the open hole of the half horse in the end. All right. Well, we don't really know if these stories have been exactly told like that by Münchhausen. But what we do know, that modern-day psychology uses the term Münchhausen syndrome for people who deliberately want to make themselves more interesting or attractive by telling outlandish stories. You can't imagine how many sculptures, fountains, posters and whatsoever of the Pied Piper are being found in Hameln. This one is the fountain of the Pied Piper in front of the town hall, where he is going out of the city with the children. So, but now let me tell you the story of the Pied Piper. There was a plague in Hameln with rats. The whole town was infested, as it was not uncommon in the Middle Ages. So there came a colorful dressed pied, that's the English word, piedly dressed guy from outside, and he was having a flute with him on which he played magical melodies. He promised the people, if they paid him well, that he would play his flute and all the rats would drown in the Weser. The people did not pay him, they didn't believe it. So he went away furiously, and according to the legend, he came back a year later, played his flute, and all the children of Hameln followed him into the forest and were never seen again. Actually, the part with the rats was later on added, which is just a saga, not true. But the part with the children is actually true. If it was the Pied Piper, nobody knows. But 150 children vanished out of Hameln, and nobody ever knew why and how.